Good afternoon and welcome to the City Club of Cleveland. My name is Paul Harris and I am president of the City Club's Board of Directors. I'm very pleased and honored to introduce today's speaker, Carla Harris, Vice Chair of Global Wealth Management and Senior Client Advisor at Morgan Stanley. Ms. Harris appears as part of the Diversity Thought Leadership Series sponsored by KeyBank. This series focuses on economic self-sufficiency and is premised on the belief that economic self-sufficient people are empowered to face challenges they encounter as they pursue their dreams. There is no better person to continue that dialogue than our incredibly accomplished, talented, and authentic speaker. Ms. Harris joined Morgan Stanley in 1987 after earning a Bachelor of Arts degree in economics from Harvard University and an MBA from Harvard Business School. She began her Morgan Stanley career in the Mergers and Acquisitions Department and later became a senior member of Morgan Stanley's Equity Syndicate desk. In that latter role, she worked on several significant initial public offering transactions, including, and this is a short version of the list, UPS, Martha Stewart Living Omni Media, Ariba, Redback, Delphi Automotive, and Immunex, just to name a few. Now, I noticed that several of those IPOs were in 1999. I think that must have been a heck of a year for you.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. But you had some long nights there, huh?
Yeah, that's when
Yeah.
I got promoted to managing director, so Brown did a lot for me.
Cool. From 2005 to 2014, Ms. Harris served as chair of the Morgan Stanley Foundation. In her current leadership role, she is responsible for increasing client connectivity and penetration to enhance revenue generation across the firm. Ms. Harris has amassed a host of appointments, awards, and accolades throughout her career. In 2013, President Obama appointed her to chair the National Women's Business Council. She was recently named one of Fortune's 50 most powerful black executives, and if you look at the list of who's who most powerful people in banking finance, she's on most of those lists. Now, I referred earlier to her authenticity. In that regard, I would note that notwithstanding all of her accomplishments, Ms. Harris says on her personal website that she had, quote, many missteps, end quote, as well as numerous victories while ascending the corporate ladder. She has committed herself to share with others, including as a mentor, author, and speaker, the lessons learned from those experiences. Now, there's a whole lot more to say about this remarkable person, but I only have a few minutes for this introduction. I will add, though, that she's an accomplished singer, has released several gospel albums, and has performed 4 sold-out concerts at Carnegie Hall. Her diverse talents in multiple respects challenge stereotypes about what a Wall Street banker is like. To sum up, I would point to Ms. Harris's comment during an interview with the Harvard Business School Alumni Magazine, quote, I believe in being comfortable in your own skin. I don't feel like I have to turn on the banker and turn off the singer and spiritual person. They coexist, end quote. Please join me in welcoming Carla Harris to the City Club of Cleveland.
Thank you. And thank you very much for that introduction, Paul. And it is such a privilege and an honor to be here at the City Club of Cleveland. So thank you very much. And I thank my friends at KeyBank for making this possible. Aga and giving me the opportunity to be at KeyBank all day. Margot, who, as you've heard, we've known each other for a long time, making this connection as well. And it is such a privilege for me to be able to share with you my thoughts about power, authenticity, engagement, and lessons in leadership. I've had the privilege, as you heard from Paul, of writing 2 books. The first one, Expect to Win, in 2009, and then Strategize to Win, which was released in 2014. And it was in Strategize to Win that I thought I would write about my thoughts of what powerful, impactful, influential leadership looks like. Because as you might imagine, ladies and gentlemen, after almost 30 years on Wall Street, I have seen some examples of what good leadership looks like, and not so much. So I thought, especially as we who are boomers have the opportunity to touch, influence, impact, and infect the next generation of leaders, that it is really our responsibility to make sure that they understand that you can lead from any seat. You don't necessarily need the title, and you don't necessarily need the station. You need to know how to lead and understand what leadership looks like, and you need to understand what power is all about and how to make that power grow. So thank you for the privilege of being able to share that for a few minutes. In my mind, powerful, impactful, influential leadership is really all around the letters in the word leader. The L stands for leverage. Powerful, impactful, influential leaders understand that there is no monopoly on intelligence. You won't always have the best idea. You won't always have the right idea. But the folks that are working with, not for, but with you, might have the intellect, the experience, and the access to relationships that will allow the team to successfully prosecute any endeavor. So if you are the powerful leader, you will know how to leverage that intellect and that experience and create an environment, no matter how big your team is, create an environment where people want to contribute because they know they will get that attaboy. They know they will get that attagirl. They know they will get credit for their ideas, their contribution, and that there will be no retribution for taking the risk and perhaps being wrong. Because in this kind of environment where we are all competing around innovation, you need for those best ideas to bubble up to the top so that you might have an opportunity to execute and to execute with excellence. So it's all about leveraging other people's intellect and experience. The E stands for efficiency. Powerful, impactful, influential leaders define what success looks like for their people. It should never be a mystery to those who are working with you as to what success looks like. If they understand what success looks like, they will be motivated and inspired to deliver excellence every day. But when you are not clear as the leader about what success looks like for that project, for that assignment, for that endeavor, then you create a lot of frustration, as I like to call it, on the food chain. You are frustrated because you know you can get more out of the people that are working with you, but you don't understand why they're not giving it. They're frustrated because they know you're not happy, but they don't know what to do in order to get there. But when you clearly define what success looks like for the team, then people are inspired to outperform. You must remember as the leader that fundamentally as humans, we all want to do well. So when you make it clear as to what doing well looks like, what success looks like, and there's a clear path to how to get there, people will always outperform. You will always get that outsized productivity from those who are working with you. Now the A stands for authenticity. And for those of you who've heard me talk about the pearls in Expect to Win, you know that that is chapter 1 in that book. Your authenticity is at the heart of your power. And authenticity is at the heart of powerful, impactful, influential leadership. If your success, like mine, depends upon your ability to successfully penetrate relationships, the easiest way to penetrate a relationship is to bring your authentic self to the table. When you bring your authentic self to the table, people will trust you. And trust is at the heart of any successful relationship. Anytime that you are trying to speak or behave in a way that is inauthentic to who you really are, you will create a competitive disadvantage for yourself because you're using valuable intellectual capacity that you could use to really hear what your client is saying, yet is not articulating. Valuable intellectual capacity that you could use to demonstrate that quick twitch response. You're using valuable intellectual capacity that you could use to co-create with that other person on the other side of that table. As quiet as it's kept, most people are not comfortable in their own skin. So when they see someone who is comfortable and confident in their own skin, they will gravitate towards you. They absolutely want some of that. This was a very interesting lesson for me to learn because as you heard from Paul, I am a singer. I have recorded 3 gospel CDs, done 4 sold-out concerts at Carnegie Hall. I'm about to do my 5th one on November 23rd of this year. But when I first started in this business of financial services as an investment banker, I didn't want anybody to talk about the fact that I was a singer. I wanted to be known as a no-nonsense, hard-driving, analytical, quantitative investment banker. I'm not here to sing and dance, boys. Let's not get it twisted. I didn't want anybody to talk about that until I saw the client reaction. My colleagues would often go into a pitch with me and say, oh, this is Carla Harris, our capital markets banker. But what you really ought to know about Carla, she's an amazing gospel singer. She's done CDs, sung at Carnegie Hall, Radio City, blah, blah, blah. And I'm there rolling my eyes until I saw the client reaction. Oh, you're a singer. Oh, I so admire people who can sing. And I personally love to sing, but my family will only let me sing in the shower. And maybe you can talk to my daughter about how she integrates her love of the arts and her academics. And there we were, having a 15-minute meeting before the meeting. So when I sat down to pitch, they heard me with a different ear. They saw me through a different lens, because Carla Harris, the singer, was allowed to be in the room with Carla Harris, the banker. I naturally differentiated myself from the other 5 bankers that would come in there and pitch that same IPO that afternoon. So now whenever I go into a new situation, I bring Carla Harris, the investment banker. I bring Carla Harris, the prayer warrior. I bring Carla Harris, the investment manager. I bring Carla Harris, the speaker, Carla Harris, the writer, Carla Harris, the singer, Carla Harris, the golfer, Carla Harris, the football fan. I bring all those Carlas to the table because I don't know which Carla will be the one that will connect and will allow me to own that relationship in a proprietary way. If you are a powerful, impactful, influential leader, you will bring your authentic self to the table because it will inspire those who are working with you to bring their authentic selves to the table. And anytime someone has the opportunity and the ability to be who they really are, they will always outperform. The D stands for being decisive, and it stands for diversity. I had the privilege of hearing Meg Whitman speak when she was CEO of eBay, and she said something that frankly would forever change my perspective. She said that the price of inaction is greater than the cost of making a mistake. And yes, as a smart, powerful leader, it is important that you gather data. It is important that you gather perspectives. It is important that you gather opinions. But at the end of the day, you must make a decision. You will create inertia on your team if you are viewed as someone who can never make a decision. Even when you are operating in uncharted territories, this has never been seen before, the firm has never done it, the team has never done it, that is okay. But don't be so afraid that you make a mistake that you never make a clear decision. You always have the opportunity in the very next minute to retreat and change your mind. That is the hallmark of a powerful leader, being unafraid of taking that risk and being wrong. In fact, you must embrace that opportunity for failure if you are, in fact, a powerful, impactful leader. Now let's talk about the diversity, the D. We are all competing around innovation. I cannot think of one industry where innovation is not a dominant competitive parameter today. And if you have a great product, you have a great process, you ought to already be thinking about the 2.0 and the 3.0 version of that product if you want to remain competitive. Innovation is the dominant competitive parameter today. Well, if you believe, as I do, that you need that one idea in order to obtain and retain a leadership position for your firm or your team or your product, then you have to agree with me that you need a lot of different ideas in the room to get to that one innovative idea that will allow you to compete. And if you need a lot of different ideas in the room, you need a lot of different perspectives in the room, because ideas are born from perspectives. And if you need a lot of different perspectives in the room, you need a lot of different experiences in the room, because perspectives are born from experiences. And if you need a lot of different experiences in the room, you must start with a lot of different people in the room, because experiences are born from people. So in order to get to that one idea that will allow you to obtain and retain a leadership position, you must start with a lot of different people in the room. So as a powerful, impactful, influential leader, you must understand that you must have diversity of people, thought, experiences, and perspectives in order to be able to compete in today's environment. The other E stands for engagement. If you are a powerful, impactful leader, you will engage with your people. Yes, there is a place for my way or the highway type leadership, but I will humbly submit to you that your runway of leadership will be shortened. Because yes, my way or the highway, people will comply, but they will give you only the job description. They will never take the risk to go beyond that. And I don't know about you, but as a leader, I never want the job description. I want the extra. I always want the extra. And you must also understand that each of us are motivated by different things. Some people are motivated by money. Some people are motivated by the power, the title, and the platform. And some people are motivated by the public attaboy or attagirl. And if you're a powerful leader, you will engage with each of your people so that you understand that dominant parameter that will always motivate them to give you the extra. But you must engage. And in this environment, where many of us who are boomers will be managing millennials and Xers, you must also understand that they have had a high level of engagement from the time that they were born to the time that they are in your office. And the way to retain that outstanding millennial and X talent is that you must engage. You must engage. When we were coming through the pipe as boomers, people said, put your head down, work hard, it'll be fine. And that was okay for the leadership and those who were managing to do at that point. But that does not work with this emerging tsunami of leaders that are coming behind us. You must engage if you want to motivate, inspire, and more importantly, retain. And then finally, the R stands for taking risks. If you are a powerful, impactful, influential leader in the 21st century, you must be comfortable taking risks. You must be comfortable taking risks. 15 years ago, you could create a competitive differential for yourself if you had information that other people didn't have. But today, information is a commodity. So the way that you differentiate yourself in any environment is to show that you are comfortable taking risks. Interestingly enough, however, as I traveled around the country talking about the pearls over the last few years, particularly during the time of the financial crisis, all I heard from people was, oh, don't take any risks. Don't take any risks. Just keep your head down. Don't rock the boat. 8% unemployment, now 5.3% unemployment. We're having our second restructuring, our fourth reduction in force. Just keep your head down. And as I was saying throughout that entire time, keeping your head down will not keep you from getting shot. So as I like to say, you might as well keep it up, so at least you could see the bullet coming. No. I say that in jest. I say that in jest because whenever we're in tough economic environments, particularly in corporate environments, it's never the time to keep your head down. Because the issue with keeping your head down is that you submerge your voice. And your voice is at the heart of your power. Whenever you submerge your voice, you become irrelevant. And when you become irrelevant, you put a big target on the front and a big target on the back. It's exactly during tough economic times as a leader, you should always assert your voice and say things like, I know that we are trying to preserve our profitability. I have 2 ideas about that. I know that we're trying to cut costs. 3 ideas about that. I know we now have 2 people doing the same job that 8 people were formerly doing. That sounds like a process redesign. I'd like to take that on. Translation to even those that are above you as a leader says, wow, he's not worried about any layoffs. She's not worried about losing the job. She's trying to put points on the board. He's trying to move the ball down the field. She is a keeper. But when I ask myself why we don't take more risks, the only thing that I can come up with is that we're scared. We're just scared. It's fear. And hear me clearly. Fear has no place in your success equation. Fear has no place in your success equation. Anytime you approach anything in your life, personally or professionally, from a position of fear, you will always underpenetrate that opportunity. And anytime I feel it creeping up the back of my neck, I just remind myself of that old Southern saying that fear is just false evidence of things appearing real. It's really not there. Because what's the worst that can happen if you take a risk and it doesn't work out? So you fail. But guess what? Failure always brings you a gift, and that gift is called experience. Now you know how to do it better. Now you know how to do it differently. Now you know how to do it successfully. At the margin, it is always worth taking the risk. And if you are shown a new opportunity and you're not sure whether you should take the risk on that, ask yourself 3 questions. Will that new thing give you skills and experiences that you would not get if you stayed in your current seat another 12 months? Second question, will that new thing give you access to people, relationships, and networks that you would not get if you stayed in your current seat another 12 months? Third question, will that new thing create new branches on your personal decision tree of opportunities, i.e. you could go off and do some other things that you wouldn't have been able to do if you stayed in your current seat another 12 months? If the answer to all 3 of those questions is yes, you should absolutely take the risk. So ladies and gentlemen, that is my view of what powerful, impactful, influential leadership looks like. And you can do that from a CEO seat, and you can do it from an analyst seat. But as long as you exhibit those qualities of a powerful, impactful, influential leader, it will always give you the opportunity and the access to ascend. And as I close, I tell you also that my thoughts around power are also around the letters in the word power. The P is about your purpose. And for those young people who are in the audience who might be asking, what is my purpose? Your purpose is merely that thing which only you can deliver that will create value for someone else because you said it, you did it, you positioned it, you executed. That thing that you do extremely well. It's not that other people won't be able to do it, but you happen to have a gift around doing that thing. That is what your purpose is all about. And as long as you use it in a way that will create value for someone else, you create a multiplier effect around your life, whether you are 15 or 51. You create a multiplier effect about who you are as you walk on this earth. Because frankly, power is about getting it, things, execution, it done, either by your own hand or by your influence on somebody else's hand. The O is around opportunities, taking full advantage of people opportunities, resource opportunities. The W is about who you are, and you must know who you are in order to be able to define what you stand for. And that's all about the authenticity message that I left. And the E is also about being engaged. And R finally is around the relationships. Remember, the most important currency that you will ever be able to hold is the relationship currency. I write and strategize to win about 2 currencies, performance currency and relationship currency. And performance currency is that currency that you generate by delivering that which was asked of you and a little bit extra. It works just like the stock market. Anytime a company says to the street that it will deliver 25 cents a share and that company delivers 40 cents a share, that stock goes up every single time, and so will yours. But that performance currency is only so valuable. After a period of time, it starts to experience diminishing marginal returns. But the relationship currency never experiences any diminishing marginal returns. And it's the currency that's generated by the investments that you make in the people in your environment. The investments that you make in the people in your environment. It is so important that you have strong relationships if you want to maximize your success in any endeavor. Take the time to invest in other people. And the secret about power is if you want to grow your power, give it away. That is how you grow your power. When you use your influence and your intellect and your impact on behalf of other people, you will always create a greater footprint for yourself, which will allow you more influence, more impact on other people. And that's how you grow your power. I close with an addendum of a Roger Hammerstein poem. And it goes like this: a bell is not a bell until you ring it. A song is not a song until you sing it. Power was not put in your hand to stay. Power is not power until you give it away. I thank you.
Well, today we are very much enjoying a Friday Forum featuring Carla Harris, Vice Chairman of Global Wealth Management and Senior Client Advisor at Morgan Stanley. I assure you she will be back up here on the podium for our traditional City Club question and answer period. So I'd ask you to start formulating your questions now, and please try to keep them brief and to the point and actually phrased as questions, although I know the temptation is tough sometimes in that regard. Now, if you are joining us via our radio broadcast or webcast and would like to tweet a question, please tweet it at the City Club. We welcome all of you here and those joining us via the radio broadcast and web stream provided by our primary media partner, 90.3 WCPN, WVIZ PBS, 104.9 WCLV IdeaStream, or one of the many radio stations across the country that carry City Club programs. Production, distribution, and broadcast of City Club programs are made possible by Cleveland State University and PNC. Be sure to join us next Friday, November 6th, as the City Club welcomes Lily Eskelsen Garcia, President of the National Education Association, for a conversation on the role of educators and educator unions in developing an education system that best serves the needs of the nation and its children. For more information about our upcoming and past programs, please visit us online at cityclub.org. Today's forum is part of the Diversity Thought Leadership Series sponsored by a generous gift from Key Bank. We thank you, Margot Copeland, and the Key team for your strong support. Our community partner for today's forum is Hands on Northeast Ohio, and thank you for your support. Additionally, we welcome guests at tables hosted by Cleveland State University, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, the Lynx, KeyBank, and Morgan Stanley. And we thank you all for your support. And also, and certainly last but not least, we welcome students from New Tech East and Shaw High School to today's forum. Student participation is made possible by a generous grant from the Law Foundation. We thank you for your support, and we'd ask the students to stand and be recognized. Now it's time to return, as promised, to Ms. Harris for our traditional City Club question and answer period. We welcome questions from everyone here today, including guests. Holding the microphones today are Director of Programming for the City Club, Stephanie Jansky, to my left, and Marketing and Outreach Fellow, Faye Walker, to my right. First question, please.
Right over here. That was a fun speech. It really is delightful to feel some of your counterintuitive wisdom and giving away power to enhance it. And yet I am feeling a somewhat traditional sense when I hear the word fear. I'm a lawyer and I have to help people address their fears all the time. And yes, it's critical to embrace risk, but you need to develop tools to assess it. Risk management is at the heart of much modern industry. And I ask for your considered and sort of patient thoughts on how you go about assessing the risks of a complex situation.
Yes, thank you very much for that question. Well, first of all, I would think about what are the pros and cons of my actions. If I'm thinking about this as a risk, I said, well, first of all, why is it a risk? What am I really risking? And then I think through, well, what could happen with these particular outcomes? I think I could do A, this might be the outcome. I could do B, this might be the outcome. I could do C, this might be the outcome. But I will tell you that my overriding thought, even when I'm thinking about taking a risk, is really reminding myself that no matter what, generally going forward is going to give me some type of asset. I'm either going to learn something about having tried, or I will get that thing that I was actually going for. And I have to tell you, frankly, sir, some of my best lessons have been taking a risk and going forward and perhaps it not working out. But I've gotten a lesson that informed my next try. So that's why I have a perspective now that even if it feels like a risk, there is generally a benefit in moving forward with it. And going back to another point that I would add is that you really only get good at assessing risk by doing it over and over. It's a learned behavior, I would argue. While you could use a template, and there are lots of books that talk to you about how to think about it, the more you do it, the better at it you get. You really get what I like to call a spirit of discernment around whether or not it really is a risk or what could happen.
Good afternoon. My name is Julian Huff. I'm a sophomore at New Tech East. And my question is, in one word, what would you describe the life of a Wall Street banker and why?
One word, exciting. I could use another one, dynamic. I could use a hyphen one, intellectually stimulated, right? I tell you, one of the reasons that I've stayed in this business for 28 years is because it has been all of that. I can look you in the eye and tell you that there has not been a day that has gone by in these 28 years that I've been doing this where I haven't learned something. When I was your age, if you had told me I would be doing anything for 28 years, I would have said, no, not really. Not because I had a view that I would do something else, but I wouldn't have thought that I would have been doing this. But one of the reasons that it has kept my attention is because it is so dynamic. And I keep learning. So the way we did mergers and acquisition transactions when I started in 1987 are very different than the way we do them today. There have been technological changes, there have been regulatory changes, there have been ways we do the analysis that are different. So it's always been something that's been evolving and dynamic, which has given me the opportunity to stay intellectually engaged because I'm always learning. So that's a long-winded way of saying what I said at the beginning, exciting.
Your pearls of wisdom are just amazing. I mean, there were so many nuggets of gold that I truly appreciate, and particularly the diminishing value of performance currency, thought I hadn't ever considered. But you spoke about authenticity and it being at the heart of the powerful, influential leader. But there are some organizations, companies, that have structured a very narrow corporate culture that do not embrace authenticity. What strategies would you offer someone who finds himself in that situation?
Yes, the first thing is that your authenticity starts with your decision to join the company, right? So that is part of what you have to think about. And so often we get so caught up in the pursuit of the job that we're not really assessing whether or not the culture is the right culture for us. So as exciting as it might be to get that offer, before you say yes, you need to think about things like, who's committed to my success? Did I have an opportunity to really show all of who I am and show my range of emotions and my enthusiasm and who I was in the interview, or did I become someone else in that 8 to 10 person interview process? And how might I give them an opportunity to experience me before I say yes, to make sure that all of who I am is okay? I'll give you an example. When I was interviewing with Morgan Stanley in 1987, I had the opportunity to go out with a few partners, and we talked about everything under the sun, from what I thought the Fed would do to interest rates to teenage pregnancy and AIDS. This was the 80s, and that was a big topic at that point. And I remember thinking that there was no point in that dinner where I was struggling to figure out, what do I say next? How do I sound impressive? Oh, what might be a good thing to say? Which was a very different feeling than I had with other firms who had also given me offers that I spent dinner with those partners. And I thought, wow, Carla was at dinner tonight, not Carla somebody, right? And that made a huge difference in my decision, because translation in my then 23-year-old mind was, wow, this is a firm where there are a lot of different equations that equal success. Surely there's one for me. And I brought all of Carla to the table tonight with dinner, didn't struggle to talk about anything, and it was easy. So this is the right environment. So your authenticity starts with choosing an environment where you think you can largely be you. Now, if you didn't do that, and you find yourself in an environment where you are constantly putting on another armor of clothes every single day, and there's no way for you to show who you really are, then you have to rethink whether or not you're in the right environment. No question about it. And particularly as women, I could argue that we can get along in any environment because we've been unconsciously socialized to do so. We're good at doing that. The question is, where are you going to be able to be largely you? Because that's where you're going to have the longest runway for success in that environment.
Lisa T. Evans with KeyBank. In your book, Strategize to Win, you talked about participation in boards and how that's helped and advanced some of your skill sets. I think you mentioned presentation skills, for example. Are there any other skill sets you would share with the group that you've achieved by being parts of boards, nonprofit boards?
Absolutely, and that's a great question. Thank you very much for that question. What she's talking about is in Strategize to Win, I make the argument that sometimes some of your philanthropic involvement is the kind of involvement that will allow you to develop the skills that you may or may not get on your day job. And what I write about is that I had the privilege on being on a couple of really great nonprofit boards, like the Food Bank of New York City, for example, when I was a first-year associate. And in that capacity, as the treasurer, I often had to give presentations around what was going on financially with the organization, internally to my other trustees, but also to prospective donors. And I got really good at giving presentations then at a time when I was not given the opportunity on whatever I was working on to do it in my day job. So by the time that I was actually able to do that in a real boardroom with a client, I'd already honed some of those skills. So you also get great selling skills if you think about it working with nonprofits, because the dominant thing in most cases is that you either have to sell the services to the constituents to grow your base, or more importantly, you have to sell to prospective donors to get more money in, right? So you get really good at positioning a story, positioning the organization, being able to sell and make an argument as to why that donor should put their money with your organization versus another organization. Depending on where you are on the board or either in the nonprofit, other skills you get is on hiring people. So if you ever want to become an entrepreneur, you learn a little bit about how to choose people to join the team. How do you think about whether or not people will fit culturally? So there are lots of skills that I think you can get being on a board or even being a volunteer with a nonprofit that easily translate into a professional corporate environment. Does that help? Okay.
With regard to your concept of leadership, if I could be allowed to generalize and say millennials have been urged on by great inflation, by getting trophies for showing up. How do you incorporate leadership guiding a group that's literally had it handed to them, and they're doing a great job no matter what they do?
Yeah. Well, I would say that if you're the person that is managing the millennials, you still obviously, you understand what the environment is that they've grown up in. And I think the way you start to slowly but surely shift and differentiate that is to basically talk them through. And so, yeah, everybody gets a hand clap for showing up to work. But at the end of the day, only one person is going to get the promotion. And it's the person that has done the outsized job. And you define that up front. I find that the issue with millennials, in my personal experience, and I spent a lot of time with millennials, is the more concrete and definitive and descriptive you can be about what the job is and what the expectations are, the more they will want to comply and do a great job. And if you say, this is first prize, this is what you have to do, then those who are motivated to do that will deliver that extra and will actually do that. And then you have to be very definitive about, well, Roger got this because Roger did the following 4 or 5 things. We all did a great job as a team, but this was over and above. And then people will respect that because at least you defined it and you said what it was. It's the obscurity and not giving the broader attaboys that I think will cause the frustration. So you still have to give the broad attaboys and the broad attagirls, but that doesn't mean you can't have somebody stand out for extraordinary performance. But you need to call that up front. You need to say extraordinary performance looks like this, and this is the reward for extraordinary performance. So I think that's the way you get around that. But I hear you loud and clear.
Good afternoon, Ms. Harris. Thank you for being here. My name is Rochelle McCoy with the Cleveland chapter of the Lynx. Welcome.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you for being a great role model. I have 2 teenage daughters who can see themselves in you, and I think you've done a wonderful, wonderful job.
Thank you.
I want to ask you about when you were a student at Harvard, what is the single most important pearl of wisdom that you gained as a student that still sustains you today as an adult?
I am worthy. Yeah, right. Because coming from Jacksonville, Florida, and I didn't know anything about any of the prep schools that are the feeder schools to Harvard, had never heard of them before. And I remember that when I was getting ready to go to Harvard, you know, those who really cared about me would say things like, well, you know, that's Harvard, and that's a big school, and that's a Ivy League school, and you used to sort of being a big fish in a little pond, but that's a big pond. You know, so just do your best, baby. Do your best, right? And as some of my friends in the room know, I am negatively motivated. So when you tell me I can't do something, I am all over it. And I remember when I first got there, then I started learning about Andover and St. Paul and Exeter and all those schools that were feeder schools. But once I got in the classroom with people, I started realizing that they were having the same challenges that I was having. And in fact, my Bishop Kenny High School diploma in Jacksonville, Florida was as competitive as any of those schools on the Northeast. And in fact, I was worthy. And that if you get to the seat, there is no accident about your being in the seat. And if you get to the room, then you have a responsibility to exercise your voice and the power that you have. That's why you were invited into the room. And understand that you are worthy. And don't let anybody else make you feel that you are not. If you got there, there's no question. You are supposed to be there. And I'll tell you this really funny story, going to the negative motivation. My freshman year, I had taken economics in high school, but economics was a little different at Harvard. It was a big survey course, and the way that it was taught, really taught, was in the little sections afterwards. So halfway through the year, the guy who was teaching my section said to me, because he knew that we had to declare majors at the end of freshman year, this guy said to me, "Girl, whatever you do, don't major in economics because you can't think." I said, okay. So at the end of that semester, when it was time to declare your major, y'all know what I did, right? Yeah. Went right over there and signed up for economics. One of my best moments at Harvard was fast forward 3 years later, I'm graduating, and I just get the notice from the economics department that I got a summa and a magna on my thesis, which meant I was going to graduate magna cum laude in economics. I found out that he was still there trying to get his PhD. And I found him in the economics library. And I went over there and I said, so-and-so, I won't say his name to protect the innocent, but I do remember the name. I went over there and I said, so-and-so, I just want to let you know that I'm marching tomorrow, magna cum laude in economics. Thank you very much for your inspiration. So, yeah.
Hi, my name is Erin Huber, and I have two questions for you. One is, I work in the nonprofit world, and risk-taking is looked at very differently sometimes. I'm accountable to my donors, to all of our volunteers. Is there a delicate way that you could suggest, coming from the corporate world, where most of our partners and sponsors come from, on how to kind of have that risk-taking conversation? And the second question is more about building leadership in other people and people around you so you can build a good team. Do you have any advice for doing that?
Absolutely. And the first question, what would you want them to take a risk around? Like, give me an example of when you said, how would you message that? What is the thing you'd want them to go with you on with respect to taking the risk?
Well, when I'm trying new technologies, I work in East Africa. So if I'm trying new water technologies to solve the world water crisis someday, how would you go about doing that?
Yes. Okay, so that involves education. So remember that whenever you're trying to do something innovative or introduce a new idea that might have, to his question, that might have some risk associated with it, you have to ask yourself, is this an evolutionary idea or revolutionary idea, which I also write about in Strategize to Win. Because if it's an evolutionary idea, the way that you bring them along is really just to build upon that which has already been done. So if it's a brand new technology, then I would say that's revolutionary. If it's sort of the next phase of something and improving something that's already out there, then, and that everybody's already bought, then your whole conversation will be about this is just adding on and this is the next version. And more importantly, it's going to give us an opportunity to serve more people. Remember, in a nonprofit setting, people are always worried about scale. Right? And anytime you can say to a donor or you can say to a supporter that it's going to give you an opportunity to serve more people, those are the buzzwords. So all of your argument needs to be around serving more people or creating an efficiency that will preserve or conserve or decrease costs that will allow you then ultimately to serve more people. So that has to be your argument. If it's a revolutionary idea where it's complete change, then you have to remind yourself that people fundamentally have a problem with change. which means you're going to have to really, really educate. So your whole argument needs to be around the education of what this is, number one. Number two, you need to be able to define who wins and who loses, right? Because with change, that's what people are thinking. Well, what's going to happen here if I lose, if I have to spend more money, right? What does that mean? So you have to think through that, and then you have to think through how do you get people on board. So in Strategize to Win, I say that there are 4 types and like you, sir, I like the big generalizations. I said there are 4 types of people in any environment: your sponsor, your supporters, your say no to everything people, and your sabotagers, right? So it's about how you start to message to each of those and in what order. And you always want to start with your sponsor because they already have currency attached to you and they want to see you succeed. And they will help you with the messaging. And they will also tell you where the minefields are. Then you want to go with your supporters because they're like your customers. And you get no better marketing than when your customers are speaking for you. So you want them to go out and talk a little bit about, oh boy, what's your name? Aaron. Aaron has a great idea, right? And have them start to message it. And then you talk to the say no to everything people so you can get the other side of your argument, right? Then you'll be ready for your sabotagers. You'll be ready to go. Okay? All right. So now, in terms of building leadership with other people, it's about assessing your folks and knowing what their strengths and weaknesses are. And this is the other thing. As a leader, you do have to have capacity in your own calendar to think about development, right? And so often as leaders, we get bogged down in execution. But you have to build some capacity, some white space on your calendar to say, okay, well, let me think about Robert. And Robert is really good, and in order to free me up to do this, I need Robert to be able to do that. He doesn't have any exposure in that. How can I get him up to speed in the next 45 days? What 3 assignments can I give him, or who can I direct him to that I think will allow that? But you have to think about that intentionally and proactively. I should have also added that leadership is about being intentional. Right? That also does not happen by accident. So that's how you get people ready, is to think through their portfolio of assets and liabilities and be intentional about exposing and developing them. Okay?
How you doing?
Hi.
My name is DeAndre Harris. I am a junior at New Tech East. And I just wanted to say I am a big fan for people of yourself that are so successful in life. Because, like, nowadays, black males like myself are mainly statistics. So my question to you would be, someone of your success has had to come about obstacles.
Oh, sure.
So, like, what obstacles have you came to make you want to go farther and get more of your greatness?
Yes, thanks a lot, Deandra. And let me just say this to you. You're right about the statistics that are always out there, but don't believe the hype, brother. Right? Don't get so caught up in the headlines, because here's an example. General Counsel of KeyBank, he looks like you. Right? So don't focus on the headlines. Don't get all bogged down with that. Yes, sometimes you hear more of that than you see of that, but it's out here. Look for it. You know, that the word says seek and you shall find. Look for it, right? So listen, you will have obstacles, but let me just tell you about some of the obstacles and challenges that I've had. They have been my best lessons. My best lessons. So sometimes you have these obstacles so that you can actually get a skill or a learning that will allow you to actually be ready for success when it drops right there, you know, in your lap. So a couple of obstacles I've had. I had a situation once where I was eligible to be the leader of this organization. And this person decided that they would reach back, and it was always a senior who would get the opportunity. But instead of choosing a senior, he went back and chose a sophomore. I was the highest ranking of the seniors and the juniors, right? And so the obstacle could have created a situation where I just quit everything and let it go and say that was unfair, and that was unfair for the following 3 reasons. But I didn't. I thought it was more important for me to stand up and have my head held. Now, I didn't do that thing, but I didn't quit the other things, right? And it enabled me to continue to get all kinds of awards for leadership. And it also inspired other people to actually go for it, because those who were behind me, who saw what had happened, they became even more determined to make sure that they got a chance to get it. And of course, I helped them do that, right? So they would have a chance to get it, even though I didn't. I had another situation where I didn't get promoted one year, and one of my friends had an opportunity to get promoted, actually 2 ahead. And again, I could have taken that obstacle and walked away. But instead, I said, no, I didn't get promoted, but let me make sure I have this conversation with someone so now I get a chit that I can now have a conversation with senior folks to make sure that it happens next time. And oh, by the way, having those conversations now created relationships that turned into sponsor relationships for me a little bit later. So what looked negative turned out to be a major positive on the other side of that. And I also had information that I could help inform my friend who was at a competitor get promoted 2 steps above. Didn't matter that she was more junior to me and she ended up, getting promoted before I did, but I had information that could help her. So sometimes those obstacles can turn out to be major blessings, not only for you, but for other people. But more importantly, they give you experience that will allow you to then be more successful down the road. The key to obstacles is never let anybody tell you that you can't. Don't count yourself out. So it may look like an obstacle, but don't say, well, that means I can't. I never will be able to. Or so-and-so told me they're not going to let me do this. They're not going to give me a shot. They're going to hold me back. Who is they? Anytime you find yourself saying they, you have put yourself on the outside of your own success circle. And you are the one that runs that show. Okay? Does that help? Okay.
Carla, I'm so glad you're here today, and I thank you especially for speaking those words directly to the students who are in the room and those who are listening as well. Right now, Cleveland is faced with some considerable civic challenges, and our nation is as well. And I don't actually care whether you talk about national politics or you talk about local leadership, but we could use some words of inspiration to maybe get us through the next election cycle, or maybe get us through
that one I'm not touching.
or help us through some of these considerable challenges having to do with our community and community police relations.
Yeah, I have to tell you, Dan, I too am dismayed with what's going on in the country now, and sometimes I can't believe it. Every time I hear about the next incident, I really am just struck and sometimes almost paralyzed for a few minutes. But in my view, it starts with something that's really simple. We need to have the adult conversation with each other, putting down all of the baggage, because there's so much baggage that everybody is carrying around right now that is creating a large amount of anxiety, fear, and anger. Somebody has to make the decision at some point, okay, I'm going to have a conversation with you. I know you're coming with stuff, I'm coming with stuff, but for an hour, we're just going to listen to each other about the issues, right? Because I think at the heart of all of this is fear. That's why I speak about fear so much, because it's sneaky, and you don't even know that you're in its grip. But you have one entity that has responsibility and authority, and you have a lot of people that's doing that are just downright afraid. So absolutely, they encounter somebody that they've never seen before, and they react. Because deep down somewhere, they're scared. And then you got the other side who knows what the experiences have been, and they see that other person coming. So, of course, they get on the fence because they're scared that it might happen to them. So I don't care how I peel the onion, fear is at the heart of this whole thing. So we need to somehow get in a position where we can have an adult conversation. I heard the mayor of Compton, California speak so eloquently in July, and she's, I guess, one of the youngest mayors, African-American woman, one of the youngest mayors in this country. She was brilliant. And she talked about how she has developed a plan to revitalize that city that was in so much trouble. And part of what she did was she said, I brought gang members in, and I went in with my administration and said, okay, we're both coexisting. And we need to live, and we need to live productively. And of course, people were saying to her, "You going in there with you have a cover, you don't have anything." She said, "I went in clean, they came in clean, and they have been some of the greatest contributors to the revitalization that's happened." I'm not saying they don't do whatever they do, but they've also been partners around some key things in terms of turning around the community. So we have to be able to have an adult, what I like to call an adult conversation, no holds barred, just going on the basis that I'm going to trust you, even for an hour. I'm going to trust you. Let's have a conversation and see what we can do with no agenda. We've got to start doing that. Otherwise, I think the fear is going to create all of these bad behaviors. And that's what I think is the dominant, the dominant motor, if you will, behind a lot of what we see going on in this country.
Hi, my name is Shantia Adams, and I'm a sophomore at New Tech East. And my question is, how have you dealt with inequalities between the men and women in corporate America?
Yes. So her question was, how do I dealt with the inequalities? And I will tell you that it's funny. As a woman of color, if you had said to me when I was your age, Carla, there are going to be some obstacles, I certainly would have thought, it was the tan and not the plumbing, right? But I will tell you, but it's been interesting that people have they do have their own baggage. But I'll tell you how you deal with that. You never pick up somebody else's baggage. Never pick up somebody else's baggage, because baggage is heavy. It will create a competitive disadvantage for you, right? So my job is to approach you assuming that everything is all equal, right? Not to look for how you might be thinking about me, how you might be looking at. My job is to give you excellence. No matter what, my job is to deliver excellence, right? And like I said, I am negatively motivated. So when I do, every now and then, because it hasn't been frequent, but every now and then, if I encounter somebody that I think might have that issue, then as I like to tease some of my colleagues, I adopt the Diana Ross strategy of relationship management, which is, I'm gonna make you love me. Ooh, yes, I will. Right? That's where I go for it. Thank you, Paul.
I was hoping we'd get to hear you sing just a little bit. So, today at the City Club of Cleveland, we have very much enjoyed a Friday forum with Carla Harris, Vice Chairman of Global Wealth Management and Senior Client Advisor at Morgan Stanley. Thank you very much, Ms. Harris. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your participation. This forum is now adjourned.